Welcome to another video by the Azure Guy, sample CKA test. I'm an Azure administrator, an Azure security engineer, an Azure solution architect, and a certified Kubernetes application developer. Question 5. We're going to be dealing with RBAC in this video. Skill level is medium. This video falls under the cluster architecture, installation, and configuration topics of the CKA exam. In particular, we'll be dealing with the highlighted information in the slide regarding RBAC. What are you tasked with? Quite a lot. You're going to create the service account named API Access and a workspace named Apps. Then create a cluster role with the name API cluster role and the cluster role binding named API cluster role binding. Map the service account from the previous step to the API resources per pods with the operations of watch, list, and get. Create a pod named operator with the image nginx 1.21.1 and the namespace prod. Expose the container to port 80 and assign the service account API access to the pod. Create another pod named disposable with the same image but in namespace RM. Do not assign the service account to this pod. Now to test the work. Open an interactive shell to the pod operator. Use the curl command to make an API call to list the pods in namespace RM. What response do you expect? Well, you gave the list operation previously to the service account, so this should work. Then you use the curl command again to make an API call to delete the pod disposable in the space RM. Of course, that should fail because the service account does not have the delete operation. Okay, let's get started. All right, our first task is create the service account named API Access and in a namespace called Apps. So let's go ahead and create the namespace. Apps, and then let's create our service account. And API-access. Of course, don't forget the service account. All right, well that's pretty good. Let's go with task 2 next. Okay, create a cluster role with the name API cluster role. All right, so kubectl create cluster role. We'll do a little help. And we could use this one is close. This one's even better. So cluster role, let's give it a name of API cluster role. Then I think verb equals, we want to give it watch, list, and get. And the resource is equal to pod. Is it pod or pods? Looks like it's pods. And there we go. Well, I didn't want to do that. Let me delete this. Kubectl delete cluster role API cluster role. There's nothing wrong with that command. I just want to take this out to a YAML file. Dry run equals client YAML, and let's call this role.yaml. Let's take a look at it. And just want to make sure, I think in the learning stages, it's great to do it both ways, just in case the exam wants it in YAML files. So we're good. We're quit out of that. And the next one is create the binding. So kubectl create cluster role binding. And we want this to be called API cluster role binding. Cluster role binding. Let's do a help. And we have another excellent example here. So cluster role. And for us, our cluster role was called API cluster role, I believe. Yes. Cluster role. We just made it. And then it wants service account, and there's an example of that right here. Whoops. And it also wants a namespace, so apps colon API dash access, and again we'll put this out to a YAML file. Again, you don't have to, it's just my personal preference here. And cluster about bind role.yaml. Unknown flag cluster role. Did I spell it wrong? Create cluster role binding. We're going to call it API cluster role binding. Cluster role. CLUSTEO. There we go. And this is probably should be double R. There we go. All right, and that should do it. Well, let's go and create them. So kubectl create f bind.yaml. I call it role. That's right. And there's our cluster role. And then we call this one a role. No, we just call it bind. Path bind does not exist. Nope, I did call it bind role. So there we go. But in doubt, just use tab, right? There we go. Let's make sure. All right, so we should be good. I was going to say, let's make sure the pods are running, but we didn't create any pods. So we're good there. And the next step is to create the pod. So let's do that. All right, next we want to create a pod named operator. And it's going to be running a version of Nginx 121.1, is it? Yep. And we want it to be in the namespace of apps and expose port 80. Anything else? And we want it to be a service account, so we'll do a dry dash run equals client dash YAML, and we'll call this pod.yaml. Let's go into pod.yaml. Yep, that's all right. Never mind. And we need to be service account. And it is called API-access. I think I hit the space bar by accident or something. That should do it. And then the other is we need to create another pod. And nope, that's the next step. So I will not do that yet. Get Control C out of there. All right, on the next step. Okay, now we want to create another pod, and we want to call this one disposable. So QC, let's see, I still have it on my, yep, so we're going to change this one here. DISPOSAV disposable. Same image. This time it's going to be the namespace of RM. No ports per se. And we'll call this pod 2. Got the name, got the image, got the... Alright, I like it. So let's do a kubectl create. Well, I might have to create a namespace called RM. There we go. And then pod 1. Call it pod 2. Alright, let's do a kubectl get pods all namespaces. And we have our apps, which is good, an operator, and RM, and it's namespace RM, that's correct, and name is disposable. So that ends this step. The next step is what makes this one rated as it is, where we're going to open up an interactive shell. So let's get to it on the next step. All right, on to our last step and to check all of our work. Let me clear the screen, and we want to open an interactive shell to the pod name operator. Well, that's simple enough, but before we do that, if you look down at the end of our step, what we're required to do, we need to make some API calls. And to do that, we need to get some information from our cluster. So on my GitHub site under CKA files, yes, I'm too lazy to make a folder called CKA. And I have a third file right here called this. You can click on it and edit it. you can also go here and download the zip, the whole thing, or you can repo the whole thing. But I would just come to here and let's go to this command is what we want. And we have to get, our goal is to run this curl command and do a list of the pods, but we need to get the URL here and a token. So this one's going to give us the first parts. So I come here, paste, and there it is. So this is what we need right here. So I'm going to take this, Control C. I want to open up a notepad. Actually, let me go back to here to my, and I want to actually get this command. I should have done this the very first thing, but I didn't. Go back to notepad, paste. Now, you think I have 6443 here. You might have a different port. Depends how you set the cluster up. But I need this right here. Control V. So this gives me, now I need the bearer. Well, how would I get that? Well, I get that. Go back to my GitHub. And then this command. Copy. Back to my master cluster. Paste. And there we go. So now I need this up to there. Copy. Back to my notepad file, and where it says bearer, where for the quotes, Control V, and that should be ready for my first test. So here we go. Alright, so I'm going to take this file, or this command, copy, going to hit enter here, going to clear my screen, and this is where in the part of the step where he says use command line to curl to make an API call. Oh, no. Use a command line curl to make an API call to list the pods in the namespace RM. And notice if we come back to our commands, we have namespace RM I already put in there for you and pods. So that's already been done for you. Alright, I'm going to do a paste. Copy, I might have lost it. Yes, I did. Clear. Let me go get that command again. Copy. Paste. Enter. Failed. This should not have failed. Oh, I think we might have forgotten. Did we ever run our bindings? QCT. Let's see. Let's check our commands. I think, is there a history command you can do? Yes. Let's see. No, we did run our bindings. That's disappointing. Now, let's see. Where did I? Let's say where our service. Where is our kubectl get service accounts? All namespaces. Did we stick that in the right namespace? API access is in defaults. We also got one in default, but we do have one in apps. Did we assign that correctly? Should be in our role bind. I think, was it, what did I call it? Bind? Nope. ls vim bind role .yaml. Serves account API-access and cluster role API cluster role. Did I spell all those correct? They look right. API access with serves account, and then name the cluster role IPI cluster 2R. So let's see. QCTL get cluster role. Yeah, looks like I got 2 R's, but I'm going to take this anyway. I say copy. I got a space in there. Oh, I think, no. I'm trying to think what I did wrong here. Vim bind role. I'm going to come here. Oops. Let me do a paste. API cluster role. That looks right. Right? API clusterrole. Well, I'm going to pause the video and try to figure out what happened here. Alright, I'm back. I haven't tried it yet, but I see an issue up on the top here. See, I got 2 semicolons. I wonder if that's it. So I'm going to make my way up here. I didn't want to try it without you guys watching. I'm not, if you see any of my series, I fully admit I know just enough Linux to get me with Kubernetes. So there's probably a quicker way to get up here, but I'm learning more every day. How about that? For an error, let's compare it to here. That explains why it's like that, but let me compare it to here. 6443 and API. Okay. So let me give it a shot. Yes, that's what we wanted. So that was the problem. You can see here we've got a list of the VM guy. Here's disposable. So that worked. Now what we want to do is do a delete, and it should not be successful. So let's come on down here. We do a clear. And let's see. I think we got everything we need for the command. So we come back to our GitHub. We're going to take this command. This is the one that does a delete. Delete on pod disposable. So it's going to try to delete it. And we're going to come to the notepad. Create a new line. And we're going to grab this without semicolon. Oh, you guys can't. There you go. Grab this. So let's fix that there. Then we'll go get the can't scroll up anymore, can I? Oh, I can still do this command though. And I want this information. Right. And we're going to put that what did I do with my file? Where did it go? Did I put it basically in the wrong? Because this does not look. This is not delete. What did I do? What did I do here? I stuck it here. It's okay. That's just another file. So here, Control V, and that should do it. Was this all one? Did it? Alright, this a little bigger. Make sure it didn't fall. You just want to make sure you got secure. Yeah, that should be okay. Alright, so I'm going to take all this, copy, come here, clear my screen. The hardest part is getting the command, paste it right. Here we go, and a failure. Cannot delete resource. So, question 5, all steps completed successfully. And again, the most difficult part here was the API information. You can find this information on the docs. Let me get a link for that. Alright, as always, thanks for watching. And our next task will be coming out soon. Until then.